set this up right here. Hey guys, how's it going? It's LaBelle Miller here with the Wide World of Vail. This is the UFC Denver preview show. This is also the DraftKings selection I'll be doing for this show. This won't be as fast as I normally do not as long as I do a lot of my other shows. Things have came up to where I have missed a couple of key events that's been going on, but I didn't want to miss. This is their 25th anniversary show. So, want to squeeze this in as quick as I can. Hopefully, some of you all are able to check this video out and learn a little bit more about the fighters, and also maybe get some lineups in if you are interested in DraftKings and things along that nature. So, without further ado, just go ahead getting into it. I'm only going to cover the main card. That way I can go ahead and get to the DraftKings selections a lot faster. Starting off at the top of the card, we have Chan Sung Jung versus Yair Rodriguez. Chan Sung Jung, more known as the Korean Zombie, fighting El Panzera Yair Rodriguez. When this is Yair's stepping in on short notice, he was the Korean Zombie was originally supposed to face Frankie Edgar. Frankie Edgar had to withdraw due to injury. So this fight is actually going to probably be more action-packed than the Frankie Edgar fight. The Frankie Edgar fight would have did boxing in short range if he needed to, but it would have been focused on more on the takedowns and doing stuff on the ground. So if you guys like stand-up battles, you'll more likely see it here with Yair's Taekwondo style and Chan's willingness to stand and trade with anybody. However, when it comes to this fight as well, Chan Sung is very skilled on the ground. The first twister submission in the UFC history. He has hit multiple darces. He's knocked guys out on the feet as well. His last fight was against Ismael Bermudez after a 4 or 5 year layoff due to his military service that was required of him in South Korea, and came out, didn't look like he misstepped, knocked the guy out with no problem. Yair's last fight is when he fought Frankie Edgar, where Frankie Edgar pretty much took him to the ground and did exactly what he wanted to him at will. So this fight is very interesting. It's a lot going for both guys. Does Chan get this done and it moves him closer to another title shot, or does Yair get this win that he needed back and show that he actually does belong within the top 5 of the organization? This fight right here, I'm surprised that it wasn't actually listed as the main event, which is Donald Cerrone versus Mike Perry. It's not the names is the reason why. Well, on Donald's half, it actually is because of the names, because Donald is from Colorado originally. So I would think that the UFC wanted to play off his name and throw him in the main event spot, so people would be able to watch the other fight. I think why they didn't do that is they think Donald's probably better off suited in a 3-round fight. That way he can go for broke earlier versus having to try to save his gas tank 4 or 5-round fights. He is also actually coming off a loss as well to Robbie Lawler. I do believe that was his last fight. So that may be why they decided they didn't want to main event him again, because his last main events against Darren Till and against Robbie Lawler. No, he didn't main event against Robbie Lawler. I forgot who he main evented against somewhere in China. He lost that fight as well, and then he ended up losing to Robbie Lawler. Versus Mike Perry. Mike Perry came in off of a short notice victory over Paul Felder. Paul Felder had a fight at 155. He ended up going up. He was supposed to be fighting Michael Chiesa. I think this was back in the April to Connor situation type thing. But with this fight, it's a lot of beef going on with inside of the gym in regards of Cowboy believing that Jackson Wink decided to go with training Mike Perry versus training him, even though he's been to the gym for a longer period of time than Mike Perry. Um, these things coming out saying it's money involved and things like that. So it's interesting to see how this fight actually plays out. Obviously, we know Donald Cerrone is a more versed striker. Mike Perry does have a lot of good power. Has a lot of KOs. That's what got his rise to fame. While a lot of people love seeing him fight and take care of business that way, but uh, I think that it'll be, of course, it'll be contested on the feet a lot more. Donald does have a great guard when he's on his back. As he's getting older in his career, he started to implement a lot of shots to come in, even if he does it to come in to do a step in knee or to throw an elbow. There's a lot of great techniques there. So uh, it's going to be a nice fight, nice war. I don't think it'll go all 3 rounds. I believe somebody will be stopped, but it's to see who it would be, and that is a fight that is very interesting that I will want to see on this card tonight. Stepping down, we have Joanna Ranamy versus Raquel Pennington. Raquel Pennington is coming off the loss to Amanda Nunes, where she was completely outclassed on the feet. She was just coming off of her major injury with her leg when she was in an ATV wreck, I do believe. Um, I don't think that should have been a right fight for her right away, but that's the fight they decided to give her. Joanna Manamy, this is her first fight since she fought Holly Holm for the 145-pound title, where she was victorious, but she decided she was not going to fight Chris Cyborg. And so, because of that, the UFC stripped her of the title. She said she had to have some surgery done on her hand because it was bothering her for her past few fights. She seems to have done that now. She's ready to roll. So, Rocky also came in overweight by 2 pounds. This wasn't a short notice fight, so it's kind of weird to try to see what happened with that. Why did she miss the weight? Doesn't mean that she wasn't prepared. It does say that she had a thyroid issue, so that does have a lot of issues with a lot of people when they're trying to cut weight. So we should see. Raquel is really tough. Joanna Manary is a very good striker. She tends to win more decisions since she's been in the UFC more than finishing girls. Uh, this would be a good fight. They're definitely going to stay in the trade, throw hands, and uh, it'll be very interesting. Benil Dariush is taking on a newcomer, Tiago Moses. Benil Dariush is just coming off his loss to Alex Hernandez, I believe. That is who he fought, where he got completely ragdolled by Alex, taking the fight on short notice. Alex knew that he was in the right place. He knew that he belonged in the UFC. I didn't see Benil getting did like that. Not necessarily because the guy was a newcomer, but he doesn't get ragdolled a lot. He normally gets caught, and that's how he gets finished. When it comes to people throwing blows and exchanging hands and things like that. Uh, so it'll be interesting because Benil's also on a kind of a skid. Um, but he's been alternating wins and losses as of recently. So it's to see what happens when he fights this newcomer, and we'll see what the newcomer can do to get it done. Uh, then we have another newcomer right here, Macy Barber versus Hannah Clifford. They're both newcomers. Macy Barber originally missed weight by half a pound. They gave her an hour. She came back and she was able to make 116 on the head for the strawweight contest. Um, People are high up on Macy Barber's talent. She has finished all of her wins with strikes and by submissions. Some of those women she's actually beat are competing in the UFC currently. So it'll be interesting to see how that happens, how that goes down, and versus her opponent who's also making a newcomer, Hannah Clifford, and hopefully this is a great fight, and this isn't a scapegoat type situation since they're putting her on the main card. And then you have Violent Bob Ross versus Luis Pena versus Mike Trisnado. They guys both were on the same edition of the Ultimate Fighter. Um, it's going to be Luis Pena has a lot of good strikes. He's very tall for the lightweight division. I think he's like 6'3", 6'4", something like that. Versus Mike. Mike got wrestled to death in his last fight. I do. Well, actually, I think Mike is the one who did the wrestling. Um, so let's see how this fight goes. They're starting off the main event part of the card. This is all on free TV, so from the prelims up, except for the fights that are exclusively on Fight Pass. Uh, this is probably going to be an action-packed fight. This is the best card, really, it seems like in a while. So we'll see what happens to go home with that. Uh, let's see here. Just something of note to throw in here as well when you're looking at these fights. You have uh, two fighters. I think where there's two fights that are on the UFC undercard. I think they're both at 135 pounds, and they both normally would be contested at 125 pounds. But I think this is due to the UFC's looking like they are cutting the fighters who weigh 125 pounds, getting rid of that division, even though they just recently announced that. I'm sure it's not 100% confirmed, but TJ Dillashaw will be fighting Henry Cejudo for the 125-pound title. So I don't know how many people they're going to cut, but I was just interested. It's Joseph Morales versus Eric Shelton and Mark De La Rosa versus Jacoby Sanchez. All four of these fighters normally fight at 125, and now I think they are fighting at 135 pounds. Maybe the UFC is giving them a look to see do they look like they can compete with the other 135s. Also, Juliana Rosa, if you remember him, he was on the Ultimate Fighter edition where we got Arnold Loderball from, where Conor McGregor was the coach. He had won his first fight in the UFC, then he lost his next one. The UFC cut him. He went on this big win streak, and these other organizations coming up. And now he is just getting his chance to fight back in the UFC after he won a fight on a Dana White's Tuesday Night Contender Series. So it'll be nice to see him. He's fighting Devontae Smith. Devontae Smith is another fighter who's coming off the Dana White Tuesday Night Contender Series. So both of these guys are hungry, and they're going to be willing to go ahead and do some further action. So that covers what I wanted to speak about those. So now let's look at the DraftKings selections of some of these fighters. If you haven't seen any of my shows like I did this before, what I pretty much do is I'll give you a couple guys that or girls I'll give as sure picks, in my opinion, and then I'll give you some other people versus their points that they're worth, and then I'll give you fights to avoid um, totally. Uh, this card actually has a lot of fights that can go both ways. I'm not really even focused on the spread as much as I normally normally will do. But this is very interesting to see how a lot of these things go out and how you piece them up. So I want to start off. I normally always mix it up that way. You have to kind of check it all out to see what you want to do to get the right selections for yourself. So today, what I'm actually going to do is do um, a fight to avoid first, and it's Davi Ramos versus John Gunter. Davi Ramos has finished his last two fights by rear naked choke. He's fighting against John Gunter. John Gunter is a good wrestler. Davi Ramos he's the biggest favorite on the card overall. Um, and he's worth $9,500 on DraftKings. John Gunter is the lowest, and he's worth $6,700. So you see this huge gap. You believe that Davi Ramos will win. I believe Davi Ramos probably will win. However, you got a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt versus a guy who likes to wrestle. And John Gunter has got caught when he fought on the Ultimate Fighter, the second to last season that was not finished right, or not the one that's finished right now, but the one before it, I do believe. Um, when he fought Luis Pena, he got caught. Not you, Luis Pena. His name escapes me right now, but he got caught in a ninja choke, front choke. when he went in and shoot the double leg, and he didn't recognize it until he was already asleep. I believe fighting David Ramos, he will present the same opportunities, but I think it'll be a lot harder for him to actually get the submission. Um, Not necessarily, I'm sorry, take that back. Not get the submission, but it will take longer because if Davi Ramos is the one that's actually having to initiate the grappling exchanges because John Gunter knows what his opponent is wanting to do to him, he's going to stay away. He's going to stay at range. John Gunter has good counter wrestling. So he's going to counter all of these things that Davi's going to be trying to do to him. So it'll be a little bit more on the feet, or it could be doing a whole bunch of grappling and then the guys trying to figure out what they needed to do. And cover this again real fast again. DraftKings, what you would get points, you get points for significant strikes, takedowns, advances, and the rounds that you finish the fight in. So you want as near as first round finishes you have, and significant strikes actually helps you out more with your points. If a guy's letting off on a guy and then he knocks him out, you get points for each significant, or you get like it's a half point for each significant strike, and then you also get the first round finish as well. So with the guys that take guys down and submit them, you get the first round points, but you won't get as many as you would from a knockout. So that's a fight that I would probably avoid. And then I think that's pretty much it for fights that I would avoid. Let's go with fighters overall that I um, like on the card. So I like Raquel Pennington over Jermaine Emanury. Raquel has fought more recently than Jermaine. Uh, and Jermaine, I'm sorry, Raquel is 7,400. I don't know why she is worth, why she's so cheap. Now, mind you, she doesn't have a lot of finishes. She will get a lot of decision wins. This fight, I will believe, will be contested on the feet. Uh, there might be a little bit of grappling there, probably not too much, but at the $7,400 point, I like her because of you being able to go add some higher price folks later, which is I'll get into. I also like Amanda Cooper versus Ashley Yoder. Ashley Yoder has actually lost her last three fights in the UFC, and more often than not, people typically cut somebody like that. However, Ashley Yoder beat, well, in some people's eyes, she actually beat Mackenzie Dern, because I do believe that she did fuck with Mackenzie Dern as well too. Yeah, she lost to her by decision. So in some people's eyes, she actually beat Mackenzie Dern. She was piecing her up very well, and I think she actually dropped her. Cannot really remember at this point. And Amanda Cooper got finished by Mackenzie really fast because she doesn't have as good as wrestling or jiu-jitsu and things like that. I think Ashley, uh, actually, I'll take that back. I forgot about that. Actually, I mean, Amanda Cooper actually got knocked out by no, she got dropped. She got dropped and submitted because she didn't respect her power. So that's what happened. I remember it now. So with that fight, I like Amanda Cooper because Ashley Yoder's style is kind of weird. She's kind of like always on you, always jumping, always doing a whole bunch of extra stuff versus sitting down on her punches or going in for her singles or doubles or body clinch or anything she wants to do like that. She is tall for the weight class, so she does have range and is able to stand and trade with a lot of people. So, but however, I like Amanda Cooper at the 76 $100 point for that fight. Um, Chan Sung Jung versus Yair Rodriguez. He's $8,500. I like him, and I also look at him as my sure pick due to the fact that he has the ability to strike and to wrestle and submit. Since he is a dual threat and this is the main event, I feel like there's going to be a lot of points in this fight. I don't think it'll be a first round finish. It could be second or third round, but I believe it'll be a lot of striking that's going on, and then some wrestling, some grappling. And so I go with Uh, as a sure pick, $8,500. I believe he'll help a lot of folks out tonight. Luis Pena versus Mike uh, Trezano. I'm probably saying his name completely wrong. I said it wrong a couple times. I like him. He's another person I put as a sure pick. Once again, he's really tall for the weight class. He has submissions. He has a lot of good striking. He's going to be able to get it done with his range. Um, and if he's on his back, he'll be attacking the whole time. So I like him as well. And then Macy Barber, I like her at 9,400. And since she is so high, it's easier to go lower with some people. And she is going to, like I said, she's finished all of her wins. So if she's finished all of her wins, you can't really knock that. That's a person that you definitely want to look at as you're doing this. Even though it's a UFC debut, it's a UFC debut against another person who is debuting. So it is interesting to see what happens there. Eric Shelton versus Joseph Moraes. I believe this fight can go either way. Both these guys are going to come bring it. They're going to go throw hands. They are on the UFC Fight Pass portion, so you can check them out. I think that is a good fight, even if you pick either one of those fighters. Um, Depends on how many lineups you do as well. If you're a person that's going out there doing 6 or 7 lineups and you like to put 2 fights together on a lineup because they're both going to get points and you'll still get the finish and things like that, or not a finish but a decision, but they'll both will get about 60 or 70 points each. I would definitely look at that fight as one that I would want to use. Um, Another fight that I actually kind of Devontae Smith versus Julian Rosa. That's another good fight to check out. See how those guys do. Um, Julian at the $7,100 value, I believe, could be a steal today because if you're not paying attention to things that he has done outside of the organization, and then you're just going what he did when he was in, I believe that is a mistake because he went back to finishing guys when he went out of the UFC, worked on a couple of different things that he needed to work on, and has been preparing himself for greatness. So him versus Devontae Smith, I expect fireworks during this fight as well. But with one of them, if you have to pick, I'm going with Julian because Devontae Smith is $9,100, and you don't want to spend. I don't ever spend high on guys that I don't know if they're going to finish or not. Which is you never know. That's being honest, you never know. But what's my probability of believing somebody is going to be able to finish somebody and get it done? Julian Rosa did lose to a less skilled striker when he was in the UFC and got knocked out, which ended up getting him sent home. But I believe he shored up a lot of those problems. He does have a nice, awkward style that's hard for people to deal with. I definitely will go with him if you're going to have to use that guy. But Chad Skelly versus Bob Moffitt, that'd be another fight. Fireworks going off 8,400 and 78 respectively. Once again, if you're doing multiple lineups, like I said, I would definitely look at having those two together in a fight. You're probably going to get a lot of points, a lot of striking, a lot of takedowns, a lot of reversals, sweeps, all things that give you a lot of points. So I would check that out as well. Benil Dariush versus Thiago Moss. I may avoid that fight. Benil Dariush is in the need of a win. He cannot lose against another UFC newcomer like that. So I believe he'll be a little bit more tentative. He may lose the fight still, but him being tentative, which means his opponent isn't going to get as many points if he's at the $7,500 point. So that's it overall. Thank you guys for checking out this video. If you're looking for some more information right before the fight, uh, or some DraftKings selections, appreciate you guys checking it out. And then also, shout out to Breakpoint Fighting Company, where I get all my jujitsu needs and stuff from. The Vance Watch Group, where I get sunglasses, watches. They just came out with a new line of stuff. They're definitely always worth checking out. The holidays are coming up, so somebody who's watched sunglasses, things like that. Those are great to check out. Also, the Nutrition Factory gives me all the supplements I need for working out and They got, weight loss stuff. And then also the great thing about Nutrition Factory is they're not just their own solo brand. They carry everybody's brand, and they do stuff at some of the lowest costs that you can find in the country. You can get it online, or if you're in the Middle Tennessee area, they can get you there. So thank you guys for checking out this video. This is how you become legendary. Greatness is earned.